Now, the United Arab Emirates, hosts of COP28, have been accused of using the climate change talks to push oil and gas deals. I love this story. This is ahead of the summit, which starts in Dubai on Thursday. Leaked documents showed that the UAE is preparing to discuss these oil and gas agreements with 15 different nations. Well, joining me right now is economist and political theorist at Webster University in Vienna, Ralph Schoelhammer, once again. Good morning to you, Ralph. It's been far too long.
I fully agree. It's great to be back on. So happy to be with you today.
Great to talk to you. Well, as soon as I knew we were doing a COP28 summit story, Ralph is our man. Now, first of all, we need to address the issue that the COP, I think it was COP26 that we hosted here in the UK, was billed as the last chance for humanity to save the planet, and if action was not taken then to tackle an increase in global warming, basically we were all going to die. Why have we had a 27 and why are we having a 28? That's the bit I don't understand. I thought the job done.
Well, I mean, you know, that these meetings, they take on a life of their own. So there will be a COP 280 in a couple of centuries. So this is going to go on forever. I think this year they expect 70,000 visitors, 70,000 attendees.
How are they arriving?
Many of them, of course, coming in private jets. So you can imagine what this is. I mean, full disclosure, I'll be one of them. It won't be a private jet, but you can see how eccentric this event is going to become if people like me are invited. I think that gives you a little bit of a sense. But there is something more significant. So this is actually one I'm very excited about because you see both the comeback of nuclear and you see also that the oil, gas and coal industry is also working on their comeback. And I think this will be very interesting. It is no coincidence that Joe Biden has canceled his attendance because he knows whatever is going to come out of this will not go down well with his environmentalist.
I mean, he's claiming it's all because of problems in the Middle East over Gaza, but no, that's exactly what it's about. Well, exactly, it's not just UAE. I mean, look, this is a nation that its entire existence and its wealth relies on selling oil and gas. What a surprise. They're trying to strike oil and gas deals. I mean, this is blowing everyone's minds. We've also got, under this wonderful Channel 4 last night, I've got to be honest with you, I cackled the whole way through this. I thought this was hilarious. Channel 4, an undercover sting operation. Let me read it to get the full grasp. An undercover sting operation has highlighted a Saudi Arabian government plan to artificially raise global oil demand. Channel 4 News can reveal in an investigation released just days before climate talks begin. Basically, the state-backed plan to target Africa and Asia with petrol, oil and diesel products under a public programme from its Ministry of Energy. Another country whose wealth is entirely dependent on the sale of oil and gas, trying to sell oil and gas to countries whose entire ability to grow their economies and improve the lot of their people is based on getting a hold of oil and gas. I'm thinking, good news story, right?
Yeah, it's like inside scoop. McDonald's wants to sell cheeseburgers, right? It's it shows you, however, a little bit the disconnect, and this is a little bit problematic. It shows a little bit the disconnect about particular parts of the media and the political class and the reality on the ground. There are still people who believe that by 2050 we will have abandoned fossil fuels. Yeah. So we've now reached this point where countries in Africa, where countries in Asia, they are much more sanguine and realistic than the people in Europe and the people in the United States. Now, as I always say, at some point, the regression to the mean is going to come. The question is how late and how much pain it is going to take. And we already see this, right? The wind industry is basically collapsing. So without government subsidies, the offshore wind industry would no longer exist. And I think the same is increasingly true for the onshore wind industry. Solar, similarly, with the exception of countries where the conditions are very well, like the United Arab Emirates, solar is not going to be a major force in the years to come. Even the United Arab Emirates have now 4 reactors, 3 already running. The 4th one is about to run. So we see these changes. And maybe also for your viewers, always look at what is done and not what is being said. So this is true in the immigration question, as the British have learned very much to their chagrin over the last couple of weeks. And it's also true in the energy question. Look where the money is going. And the money is already going back to coal. It's going back to gas. It's going back to oil. And interestingly enough, it is not going into the areas that would be needed for the energy transition. Everybody's always talking about lithium. Forget lithium. The key element for the energy transition is copper. But there is not a lot of investment going on in copper. And the reason for this is because the mining industries know very well. They say there is going to be a run on copper in the next 4 years. Then the world is going to abandon the energy transition. And they would be kept hanging with billions of investments in long-term copper mines. So what they are doing is They buy smaller copper mines in order to have, a revenue from this short-lived run, and then they expect things to go back to normal again.
Because there but that's the thing, there are so many different components. When people talk about solar panels, wonderful, wind turbines, but it's all clean. Of course, completely ignoring the entire production process and the fact that these things only last, 15 years or so. Then what do you do with them? And the fact that, certainly the mining for some of the minerals that are needed and the components is incredibly dirty and incredibly, very cruel as well. Often involves basically child workers, doesn't it, in a lot of these countries? But this is the thing. Do you think there has been a bit of a wake-up? And that's my hope, that people like you and many others who are actually talking sense to this, who know about this stuff, who are actually saying, look, this is just nonsense. And, publics, whether it's, the Netherlands, whether it's in the UK and otherwise, it's simply saying, look, this is a load of nonsense. We're not going to be agreeing to being made poorer for this sort of, so someone can say something nice at a summit and get a pat on the back and a Nobel Prize. We want to just carry on with our lives. We want to be able to fly. We want to be able to own our cars. We want to be able to heat our homes.
Yes, and the point is always the same. Like, politics cannot simply outlaw the laws of physics. And this is the problem that they always run into. And we see this increasingly now also with new studies coming out that saying, well, what has been promised in recent years, that everything is going to get cheaper, that it's more efficient, that's actually not really the case if you take the entire system costs. This is the lie that has been promoted. You look at one part that is potentially more effective and then say, look at this. Solar and wind is better than the alternatives. But you have to look at the cost you incur over the entire system. What does it mean for the grid? What does it mean for imports? What does it mean for supply chains? And then very often it's not as rosy as it seemed at the beginning. And of course, people can feel it in their wallet. And this is the big issue, right? If you tell someone everything is going to be cheaper just about now, but in truth, it's always getting more expensive. At some point, people are going to lose trust in the promises.
Well, we're not stupid. That's the thing, we're not stupid. Now, can I ask you about this morning, a flight taken off, a Virgin flight, which eco-fuel. We're told this is the future of the aviation industry, because we're always told, one of the key things, the net zero folk hate is people. Well, they claim to hate climate change as a result of aviation. What they really hate is people other than them being able to get a flight anywhere and having fun and interesting lives and being able to travel and go on holiday. That's what they really hate, because they want us to have poorer, more miserable lives. But this new flight taking off, basically powered by, from what we can gather, chip fat. Is this the future of aviation?
There is a chance, right? I think synthetic fuels, if they would be produced with nuclear power, I think there would be a future for it. But at the moment, this is very similar to the so-called carbon offset deals. It's a grift. Increasingly we know this, right? This idea, you pay $2 or 20 pounds extra on your flight ticket, and then somehow it's going to be put back in balance because the airline is going to, commit to, I don't know, a tree being planted in Brazil or something.
I always sign off those things. I just go, no, I will not pay for you to plant a tree. It's just, as you say, it is just a complete con.
No, the problem is always with this. This is also something I want people to understand. If you look at all the products, whether it's jet fuel, whether it's diesel, whether it's gasoline, all of this is produced from a barrel of oil. But you cannot just refine, a parts of a barrel of oil. You have to refine the entire thing. So you're always going to end up with these goods anyways. Yeah. So you want to replace something that you're going to produce anyways. And the idea that we can, for example, replace diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, all with these synthetic fuels, maybe at some point, as always, is it possible in the centuries and decades to come? Absolutely. Is it possible until 2050? Absolutely not. And this bothers me, I think, because this is true for you and for me. Neither you nor I are, anti-environmentalist or anti, clean energy. It is the time frame. Like, it's always this problem. It's like people jumping out of an airplane saying, we're going to invent the parachute on our way down. This is a very, very risky bet. And this is not what you should do, right? First, you invent the parachute, then you build it, then you jump out of the plane. And it's the same in the energy way, right? We always hear, for example, about the new battery breakthrough. Okay, once these batteries are there, once they can be produced on scale and on grid level, let's do it. But don't turn off nuclear and coal and say, because it's soon, in 5 to 10 years, we're going to have these batteries.
Absolutely. That's not going to be soon enough when we're sitting in the dark, is it? Listen, you have a lovely time at COP28, lovely, warm Dubai. I'd love it if we can get you on air on Thursday to tell us how it's going. I hope you've managed to persuade the lunatics to stop taking over the asylum. Ralph Schoelhammer, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Tom Slater, he just talks so much sense. I said, oil countries trying to sell oil to countries that are trying to develop that need oil. Shocker.
No, it's ridiculous. I think what we're dealing with here is an ideology. This is about so much more.
A religion.
Yeah. I mean, this is the big problem we've got to dislodge, is that you've got governments, commentators, all sorts of people hooked on this idea that small is beautiful, that we have to kind of go back to nature. And
well,
that's
then this wonderful agrarian past where we all had this wonderful life, living in little sort of hamlets.
Where everyone knew their place.
Yes.
It sort of usually comes at the end of that. So I think that's what we've got to realise, what we're dealing with here. It's not just an argument about the respective technologies, it's also about this whole fad to religion, as you say, that they've taken.
It is. I genuinely think it's really, really sinister. I really do, in terms of just how much they want to actually stop us having fun. So it's why people are against, and these green people are against nuclear. They're against, like, you know, any of these new fuels and things. Yeah, we can carry on flying. They don't want us to fly.